The demo for Atlus's newest JRPG title, Metaphor ReFantazio, may just be one of the most expansive and complete demos I've ever played for any game ever. I downloaded the demo on September 26th, and as of today, which is October 9th, I already have a beefy 25.3 hours of playtime on this game. That's over an entire day's worth of gameplay, 100% free, and I am not even fully done with the demo yet. I still have one in-game day left to play. Needless to say, I thankfully found myself completely falling into the flow of this game, which I'm grateful for and frankly I expected out of an Atlus title like this. Initially, however, I wasn't entirely sure just how easy it would be for me to get wrapped into the world of Metaphor. I mean, it's no secret that Atlus has kind of been going through a bit of a rough patch lately, and I was kind of blind and in the dark about the prospects of their new IP doing well. I'm actually not typically one to enjoy the fantasy genre very much, and the game's aesthetics didn't really line up with what I would usually like personally. Perhaps the game's insistence upon itself ended up winning me over, because at some point I found myself always wanting to reopen the game and continue the story on or keep on grinding through one of the dungeons. So I've decided I'm officially pre-ordering the game against all odds in hopes that the story and the gameplay will continue to totally intrigue me. Admittedly, there was a certain major plot point around the beginning of the story that I felt was entirely too predictable, and I have my suspicions about where this game will take its story to its end, given the implications about the game being self-aware and literally acknowledging the player as its own person in their own reality. But at least the execution of these themes was pretty grand, and even though it was somewhat predictable, the quality voice acting and animations managed to get me pretty hyped up. Surprisingly, I actually had the most fun, however, with the combat of this game. I played the demo on normal mode, and I thought the difficulty was pretty well balanced. I appreciated that there were not only multiple difficulty options to choose from, but there was also the ability to challenge optional hard bosses. I mean, adding basically 2 secret bosses to a demo is kind of just genius, in my opinion. That gives players a chance to really dig into learning the relatively new combat system and its new mechanics, and get fully invested in maximizing their archetype strategies and training up each character. Plus, it buys time for players to sink in while waiting for the full release. It was also very satisfying when I was finally able to beat the hard optional bosses. I really enjoyed thinking strategically about whether my units would end up in the front or the back rows, and even though that seems like kind of a simple mechanic, it is new, I believe, compared to other Persona games. Now, it's really difficult not to compare this Hashino title to the behemoth Persona games that have blown up for him in the past. I would actually say that the amount of different options you have for combat in Metaphor is a little bit less compared to the actual Persona games, but maybe I just need to see a bit more of the game and it'll change my mind about that. There are a wide array of archetypes to learn and equip, which you can change around for each character, so the experimentation is there. I just kind of miss seeing all of the different wacky designs of the Shin Megami Tensei demons, but this isn't related to Shin Megami Tensei, so oh well. The monsters that I have seen so far in the game, however, look absolutely sick, especially the humans, of course. I mean, they look as wacky as like biblically accurate angels. They are genuinely so cool that each time I run into one, I can't help but just like sit and stare in a weird mixture of disgust and artistic awe. I really want to see more of these humans in the full game and see what kinds of visceral reactions their designs can rip out of me. I felt like Metaphor ReFantazio admittedly had a little bit of a slow start, but if you can hold out for a bit, I think you could get sucked into the game just as I have. It's going to feel really great to hopefully have a game I can get totally immersed in once again, thanks to Studio Zero. Oh, and I'm not sure how much of a hot take this is, but so far I actually do not vibe with Galaga that much, but there's no way she can just be like removed removed from the game because I'm sure she's a pretty important character. I have no doubt in my mind that people are going to compare her to Morgana a lot, which if you don't know is a character in Persona 5 that got a lot of haters because of his controlling and oftentimes annoying decisions about what Joker should or should not do. I think it's just that she's always floating around me and kind of sticks out like a sore thumb with her bright blue and yellow pastel colors compared to the rest of the game's settings. She's a bit of an eyesore to look at and kind of annoying guide so far, but she has her moments, so I can tolerate her for now. As someone who's not that into the fantasy genre but is really into fourth wall breaking, I am really excited to see just how far this game can reach with that. Will it be near Automata levels of fourth wall breaking and a commentary on the power of the fantasy genre as a whole? I mean, that's a possibility for sure. I think I would feel pretty satisfied if they can reach that point smoothly. Now, as for the music, I am a huge fan of Shoji Meguro's works, but sadly, the music in this game really isn't my style. It mostly sounds like Fire Emblem music to me, and I know there's a lot of different kinds of Fire Emblem music, but I'm talking about that traditional, like, fantasy vibe of kind of music that you would hear in those kinds of settings of games. The battle theme's strange, gibberish, rambling thing wasn't really doing it for me, to be honest, and I couldn't help but wish for a little more variety with what I was listening to. So I'm hoping there is like more diverse number of tracks in the full game that we can hear. Though the soundtrack isn't personally to my liking, it's not totally horrible, and I can stand to listen to it for a while. It does fit the atmosphere and the setting of the game that I've seen so far, but sadly it's just not as memorable or catchy to me as Meguro's other works. Also, the writing of the game initially kind of turned me off. See, I kind of tune out when the writing kind of leans way too heavily into this fantasy jargon because I just can't really relate to it. Maybe I was like brainwashed by it, or maybe the jargon simmered down a bit, which is what it kind of felt like. But I started to enjoy the writing a lot more after that opening scene, and all of the different accents you hear from the various characters and people you meet while walking around are just fantastic and fun to listen to, and they make the world feel much more alive and diverse. As for the art direction and the graphics, I did have an issue with the intensity of the motion blur as the main character dashes around. To be honest, it really hurt my eyes. Additionally, the camera kind of does this slight wobbling thing during cutscenes or dialogue moments, probably in an attempt to make the game seem more realistic or something, but it just felt a bit uncanny and hard to look at, especially because this game has an anime aesthetic. It doesn't really need to use those special effects for realism's sake to look good, in my opinion. But the worst part is I didn't see that there was an option to turn off the motion blur, the camera shaking, in the settings anywhere. I even saw somebody uploaded a mod online that fixed the motion blur issue, so I wonder if Atlus will patch in their own fix for this in a launch update. Besides the kind of unoptimized and janky graphical issues at times, Shigenori Soejima's artwork is as polished and beautiful as ever. The sprite work is just pristine, and of course the menus are particularly stylish. I did find it a little strange how the different menus were basically just close-up shots of different parts of the main character's body, but I suspect it might have something to do with some kind of alchemy or magical reference, but let me know if you've pieced that together yourself already. My personal favorite character design so far might be Maria and the protagonist. Maria for her cloud-like and cutely shaped hair, and the protagonist for his stylish overcoat. I'm kind of a sucker for the best friend characters, so of course I also started to really like Stroll at first after meeting him, though I'm getting the impression that each of the major characters will have a fleshed out social link for you to follow and thoroughly experience, and that is very exciting to me. I'm particularly excited to get the chance to speak with Maria more, since she's just so cute and she just had a major turning point happen for her in the story. If you're still on the fence about purchasing Metaphor ReFantazio, I would definitely recommend checking out the demo. It's completely free and will offer you a plethora of content to dig into before you make your final decision. Besides, $70 is kind of a scummy new price tag video games are trying to set as a standard lately, so it's not a small decision in the slightest. But at least you can potentially play over 20 hours of this game for free to try it out. All in all, I'm very excited for October 11th when this game drops real soon. I'll let you know how my opinion of this game changes as I sink multiple more hours into it. Thank you so much for clicking on this video and listening to what I had to say, and happy gaming!